Hello and welcome back. Man, it 12-0, state champs. Now we'll get into like some of the nitpicking, what happened in the game, but man, just take a moment to appreciate that 12-0. Only the fourth time in the program's history they've been 12-0. Right, 99, 13, 14, and this year. I think they've won 12 games total. I think it was 6 times. It was like 93, 99, 2012, 13, 14, and then this year it was 5 or 6 times. Whatever. Anyway, so take a moment. I'm drinking in. I've barely been awake, so I'm still wearing my fucking nightshirt and look like shit, but that's fine. Had a great night last night watching the game. So let's talk about it. We'll start with the offense, FSU's offense. You know, you were worried, like, what would Tate have up here? And unfortunately, he didn't look like he had much up here as far as composure, and he just looked lost. Deer in headlights. The game was moving too fast for him. Just really disappointing. He did make a few clutch throws in the second half, but my God, I hope another week of practice with the first team. And, you know, if they can beat Louisville next week, having 3 weeks of prep for whatever bowl game they're in. I'll talk about that later. Hopefully he can take another step, because while we all expected a step down from Travis, didn't expect the offense to only muster like 220 yards, 230 yards against a bad UF defense. And I get it, it's a rivalry game, all that stuff. So UF, maybe played a little above their heads, but still, that's obviously concerning. But we already knew it was a concern, just didn't know how bad. But it is one game. Doesn't mean he's going to go out next week and only, complete half his passes next week, which I think he finished like 12 for 26 or something bad. Which I was a little disappointed in the play calling, not specific plays, but not running more. I thought with Tate, they'd probably rush 40 times. I just chalked it up. If they have 60 plus plays, I can see us running the ball 40 times, especially with UF's defense. Tends to wear out in the second half because they don't have much depth on the defensive line. Their linebackers are undisciplined. Their safeties don't seem interested in tackling or challenging runners half the time. And kudos to Benson. He ran his ass off, had like 90 yards, 3 TDs. He ran like a freaking man last night. But yeah, I was a little shocked. We only had like 31 rushes on the night, and Tate threw 26 times. Like, okay. That's neither here nor there. Like I said, Tate did a couple clutch throws. The one to Johnny on the sideline, hell of a catch. Tate's rolling to his left. UF brought the heat a lot, which is what you expected. It's what they've done all year. That's what that guy, their DC that looks like the great Hambino from Sandlot. He's very aggressive. And, a few times Tate made him pay. That big 4th down conversion to Ja'Kai Douglas. Great ball, great catch. But on the whole, besides Benson, the offense couldn't do much of anything. Luckily, and here comes the more positive part, our defense balled their asses off. And, hat tip to Fuller, like, the stats on the year have been good, but they've also been against a lot of poor offenses or backup QBs or not so good QBs. And yes, last night was against their backup, but they still have Montrell Johnson, who's good. Etienne is good. Pearsall's an NFL guy. Wilson is a stud freshman. But of course, they were down their left tackle, I think. So that, is problems versus the FSU DL. But credit to Fuller, man. Like the first quarter, you're like, all right, what's going on here? They have like 100 yards. What the fuck? What am I watching? How do they have 100 yards? They're on pace for 400 yards with this backup QB. But from about the mid-second quarter on, and then definitely after halftime, Fuller again got in his bag with defensive whatever adjustments he made, and held them to 32 yards in the second half. 32 yards in the second half. 0 yards in the fourth quarter. Max Brown or not, left tackle out or not, you hold a rival to 0 yards in an entire quarter, you're doing some things. And the DL feasted. Even when the defense was kind of struggling in that first quarter, we were killing their O-line, but they kept picking up third downs. They had some third manageables or a couple third and longs, and hey, credit to Brown, he made a couple good passes. Remember the one on the sideline early in the game was like, that was a heck of a throw. But we were getting beat situationally on defense because they kept converting it third downs at a ridiculous rate. Well, thankfully, and as suspected, that wasn't sustainable. But yeah, Fisk was unblockable in the first half. Jared Verse and Peyton in the second half, just wrecking shit. Akeem Dent had a good game. I just remember seeing his number a lot, and we got to talk about, if we're talking about Akeem Dent, every college football fan, Florida State, well, that call changed the complexion of the game, where Dent's the free man coming in on the blitz, crushes Brown. It's not targeting. It's not a personal foul. It's bullshit call. And instead of, I think that would have brought up, yeah, that was third down, I believe. That would have brought up a field goal attempt. But instead, the ACC ref's going to do what they do and be fucking awful at their jobs. And that's how FSU or UF got their first TD. But God, that was such a horrible call. But Dent played well. I mean, I could name more. When the defense only allows 230 yards and 0 yards in the fourth quarter, a lot of people play well. But good God, especially Verse, almost like the cherry on top when he just bull rushed their left tackle into the quarterback to sack him. Had a Gator friend of mine in a group text. He goes, Jesus Christ, FSU's defensive line has some grown-ass men. I was like, yeah, yes, they do. So, hat tip to the defense and Fuller. It's just a hard-fought win. And it was clear to see throughout the game, and especially in some key moments like the spitting, the contrast between UF and FSU as far as composure. Florida was, as I read about before the game, and it played out this way, undisciplined as hell. Whether that's penalties or shenanigans or whatever, completely undisciplined. FSU, on the other hand, they were more composed. They were more disciplined. And it makes some sense because FSU's got a lot of older players. Florida's got a lot of younger players. Mike's in year 4, so he's had time to establish that type of culture for staying composed in the moment and all that. And Billy's in year 2 with younger guys. But still, that was clear. And it was one of the reasons it cost Florida the game. They couldn't keep their shit together with some of the shenanigans they did. But man, what a season. Yeah, and here's what I'm talking about next, the college football playoff. Enjoy the 12-0, right? And we can think about what's going to happen next, right? ACC championship next week. Tate can't look worse, I hope. And Louisville, in spite of losing to Kentucky, is a physical team. They're well coached. Like, Louisville could beat us. Like, there's no question that could happen. I'm not saying it's going to. FSU's defense will likely keep us in it. Tate just needs to be serviceable. Don't be god-awful like you were last night. Just be serviceable, and you could get out of there with a win. And if they do, this is a hot topic past couple weeks, and will be going forward until the playoff matchups are finalized. Will FSU go to the playoff? Yes. If they're 13-0, they will go. The committee looks at metrics and all that, but their number one stat or number one priority or what they value the most is wins. Looking at their history, they are not going to leave a 13-0 Power 5 champion out of playoffs. This is not going to happen. No, of course, the debate comes, is FSU one of the 4 best teams without Jordan Travis? Of course they're not. They're not. But I don't give a fuck. If you're 13-0, Power 5 champ, you should go. Have 3 weeks to prepare. Who knows what steps Tate could make? Will he beat Jordan Travis? No. But maybe 3 more weeks of prep. Hey, roll the ball out there and find out. Also, let's be real. Georgia's going to be heavily favored versus whoever they play in the playoff. Georgia's, barring something strange, Georgia's going to three-peat. Let's be fucking real. Their only question coming into this season really was quarterback play. Well, Beck's answered that times 100. He's a borderline Heisman candidate. So with him playing like he is, Georgia's basically a cheat code. The only chance you had to catch Georgia this year is if they had a bad quarterback play, and they don't. So let's be real. Whether Georgia's playing FSU without Jordan Travis, or playing Oregon or Washington or whoever you want to put in there, except maybe Michigan, Ohio State, I think that Georgia's going to beat the brakes off everyone not named Michigan. And hell, they might even beat the shit out of Michigan. I'm not entirely sure about that. But what's also frustrating about this debate is the criticisms that some people put on Florida State. It's like they ignore the other CFP contenders and their flaws or their close wins. It's like, all right, yeah, FSU's had a couple close games. Last night was, they won by 9 with their backup QB. Yes, it was ugly, but Washington squeaked out a win against a bad Washington State team. Crickets, nothing. Bama, who some people are now talking about, there's a path. If they beat Georgia in the title game, there's a path, right? And then ignoring, hey, Bama struggled versus South Florida. They struggled versus a bad Arkansas team. They barely beat Auburn with literally, no hyperbole here, a 0.1% play. That 4th and goal from the 31 enabled them to, beat Auburn. The same Auburn team that just last week got smoked by New Mexico State. And nothing. You're not going to hear any criticism. I doubt you're going to hear any criticisms of those two teams. They're going to be lauded as achieving gritty wins. Whereas FSU, it's going to be ugly. Why? I don't know. I don't know if it's an SEC thing or if it's or more of maybe less an SEC thing and more of hey, the ACC stinks. So, let's just shit on the team that's representing the ACC, and that's fine. And again, yes, I without Travis, this team is obviously different. But they were having these types of conversations before Travis got hurt. And then when you looked up at FSU's number, their strength of record was 5 or 5th. Strength of record is how they think other teams would do with the same record, I believe. So, top 5 there. They are, I think, top 20-ish in overall offensive efficiency. I think top 15 in defensive efficiency. And then top 20-ish in special teams. They're one of a handful of teams, not many, that are top 20 or 25 in all those efficiency rankings. FSU has only had one game, which was the Clemson game, that they failed to achieve a post-game win expectancy of 80% or better. And if you don't know, post-game win expectancy is just as it sounds. Should they have won the game? How did they act? Did they get lucky? No. When 11 of your victories, your post-game win expectancy is 80% or better, that means you're doing some things. Yeah. They're on the whole, have been in control of pretty much all their games, in spite of having a couple close calls. But again, the other teams can get away with close calls. So let's go back to Washington again. Beat Arizona State without scoring a touchdown. Squeaked by a bad Stanford team. Nothing. It's just nothing, right? So that's when I'm just kind of shake my head at some of these arguments. because it's like on one hand I get you, but on the same time, like, how come these other teams aren't getting the criticisms? But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to wrap it up. 12-0. It's awesome. Louisville's not going to be easy. You need Tate to be better than last night. Hopefully the defense shows up again. And if they do, if they win, I suspect FSU will be in the playoff. And if they get in the playoff and get blown out, zero fucks, dude. Like, yes, in the moment I'll be like, damn, man. But come on, we're on our backup quarterback. Like, enjoy this season. I've been making it a point to really appreciate this season as it's gone on. Because knowing where this team was just 2 years ago, 4 years ago, mired in shit. Here we are, 12-0. Could be conference champs, 13-0. Go to the playoffs. Hey, there's been a number of teams that got blown out in playoff games. It is what it is. And again, if it's Georgia, there's no fucking shame in it. Now, do I want us to beat Georgia? Of course. But we'll see. If they get in, they'll have 3 weeks to prepare. And maybe more importantly, 3 weeks to get healthy on the offensive line and roll the dice. And if people don't think FSU should be in it, hey, fine, that's your fucking opinion. But I hope you criticize some of these other teams that are on the periphery the same way you are FSU when it comes to close victories and ugly wins and things like that. All right, well, that's it. That's all. I'm out. 12-0. Feels great.